Hi, my name is Mackenzie, and fun fact about me, I think everyone's purpose in life is to start a YouTube channel. Your life has not started until you become a YouTuber, because this is what makes me happy, and I have no concept of anything outside of myself and my interests. So it has to be what makes everyone else happy too. Anyone who says anything else is lying to you. At least that would be my opinion if I was an insane person or my name was Harrison Butker. An unfortunate pairing of words, as many people have pointed out over the internet and have had a really fun time with. Harry, if you didn't know, like most of us didn't until last week, is the kicker for the Kansas City Chiefs, and they won this last year's Super Bowl. He kick ball, he make ball go far, he say lot word, make people mad. You wanna know something else that makes me mad? When a few months ago, I received a text from a complete stranger who found my phone number online somehow. Mad might not be the right word, let's go with horrified. I felt so exposed and vulnerable and icky, so I did a Google search on myself, and to my shock and dismay, I found a wealth of other personal information, including my home address. And I wanted to delete my online presence and move to a new country or planet. Since then, I have been working tirelessly to have my personal information removed from these websites, but it has been a slow and arduous process. That is why I have started using Aura, the sponsor of today's video. Aura is an online security tool that helps protect your personal information from being sold on the dark web and by data brokers. It alerts you when your details are being compromised, and it automatically removes your information from these data broker websites. In light of recent data breaches, like the AT&T incident where over 73 million customer records were leaked on the dark web, having a service like Aura is more important than ever. They provide all-around protection, including strong password recommendations, account activity monitoring, and even credit freeze and fraud alert considerations. The best part is that Aura does all of this for me in one convenient place, so I don't have to lift a finger or juggle a bunch of apps, and I don't have to worry about my data being secure. With Aura always working hard to keep me safe, I can focus on creating content with a peace of mind. I value my privacy, and I value yours too. If you are interested in trying Aura for yourself, you can go to aura.com/Mackenzie to start your 2 free-week trial. That is aura.com/MAKENZIE, and the link is also available in my description below. Thank you again so much to Aura for sponsoring today's video. Let's get back to Harry. Even though Harry Ballsack is not usually paid to open his big dumb mouth, clips of him speaking at a commencement ceremony recently have gone viral for all the wrong reasons. Located in Atchison, Kansas, Benedictine College thought that he was a great fit to be a speaker for their 2024 commencement ceremony, and truth be told, he was a great fit for this particular college. Their mission statement reads, "As a Catholic college, Benedictine College is committed to those beliefs and natural principles that form the framework of the Judeo-Christian tradition, and it is committed further to those specific matters of faith of the Roman Catholic tradition as revealed in the person of Jesus Christ and handed down in the teachings of the Church. The college embraces students and faculty from all faiths, doubtful, from all faiths who accept its goals, seeking in its members a personal commitment to the ideals and principles of a spiritual life in the expression of these in worship and action." So a conservative religious school hiring a conservative religious speaker shouldn't exactly be newsworthy. I think it's just his D-list celebrity status that made this particular speech go viral, and the fact that most people were unaware of his beliefs before or who the fuck he was. But I don't think Harrison is the only person to have these caveman-like thoughts in his head. Y'all know that the Chiefs coach is Mormon, right? We'll get into the similarities in theology in a second. But any of his other teammates that secretly agree with him are probably going to support him from afar now, considering there is a change.org petition with over 150,000 signatures to have him removed from the team. There's also a few petitions in support of him, including a petition to take down that other petition, which is just kind of funny. I should start one to cancel that petition, just create an infinite amount of petitions, just canceling the other petitions. Now, petition doesn't sound like a real word. But what I need you guys to know is that although most of the response I have seen to his speech is negative online, the audience loved his speech so much he received a standing ovation, which at first I thought sounded dystopian and crazy until I remembered that I used to live in Provo, the home of BYU, and speeches that are full of hate and bigotry are a dime a dozen down there.
Today, scholars building the temple of learning must also pause on occasion to defend the kingdom. This is one of the reasons the Lord established and maintains this university. I'm grateful we have scholars today who can handle, as it were, both trowel and musket. Then Elder Oaks said challengingly, I'd like to hear a little more musket fire from the Temple of Learning. He said this in a way that could have applied to a host of topics in various departments, but the one he specifically mentioned was the doctrine of the family and defending marriage as the union of a man and a woman. I and many of my brethren have spent more time and shed more tears on this subject than we could ever adequately convey to you this morning or any morning. If a student commandeers a graduation podium intended to represent everyone getting diplomas that day, in order to announce his personal sexual orientation, what might another speaker feel free to announce the next year? Until eventually anything goes. What might commencement come to mean?
Do you guys think that Mormon apostle Jeffrey Holland is upset that Harrison Butker commandeered the podium to talk about his heterosexual orientation at length, and that women who don't read books make his pee-pee hard? No sirree, Bob. Jeffrey doesn't give a shit. It's weird calling him Jeffrey, but it's also really empowering. I suggest you try it. Jeffrey doesn't care if you talk about how great it is to be straight. It's almost like it's not talking about your sexual orientation at a graduation ceremony is what bothered him at all. It's almost like he doesn't want BYU to be known for their gay graduates because he's a bigot. When he was crying, Mackenzie, that means that he cares. Bullshit. No one that calls for metaphorical violence against queer people actually care about them at all. It's called being performative and senile. He's probably crying because he also remembered that he pissed himself. I think that growing up Mormon and hearing this kind of rhetoric on the daily really desensitized me to it, and even though I don't agree with a damn thing that Football Man said, it truly sounded like every other general conference talk I've heard morphed into one. What, another white man thinks that women should be in the kitchen making him a sandwich? That's unheard of. I think it's just more exhausting at this point than it is disappointing. It's nothing new, it's just old and tiring, just like church. So I wanted to go over the more egregious parts of his speech and compare it to things that Mormonism teaches, because if you are LDS and think that the things he said were awful, but that it's okay for your church leaders to say it, you gotta reevaluate things, particularly your life choices. For context, Harrison is 28 years old, has been married to his wife Isabel for 6 years, and they have 2 kids together. He also has an estimated net worth of $5 million from his football career to support his family so that his wife doesn't need her stupid computer science degree. When I tell you that in his 20-minute speech, it takes him 1 minute and 30 seconds to completely lose the plot, I am not joking. I would never joke with you guys. Since it's the class of 2024, he starts out his speech by talking about the pandemic, which started in 2020, so that is when most of the graduates would have started their degree.
While COVID might have played a large role throughout your formative years, it is not unique. Bad policies and poor leadership have negatively impacted major life issues. Things like abortion, IVF, surrogacy, euthanasia, as well as a growing support for degenerate cultural values in media, all stem from the pervasiveness of disorder.
Those are some big words, friend. Someone bought a dictionary. I need to mention that although he did receive a standing ovation, there was a small group of women in particular who did not clap and in fact booed. One woman said it was about 10 to 15 of them who did this. Imagine being one of these women, being so excited to graduate, and this fuck ass uses the podium to say every word that he's ever learned. And what is the connection of all these things, and what do they have to do with graduating college, you ask? The answer is nothing. It appears to be a laundry list that should have remained in his journal of things women does that he doesn't like. And if you're waiting for him to expound upon these things, he doesn't. He just briefly mentions them, and then he continues on with his day like they were the most normal things to bring up at this moment in time. Now, I am not very super familiar with Catholicism, but I am very familiar with Mormonism, and I wanted to compare notes. So the Mormon Church is not shockingly pro-life, except in instances of rape, incest, or life of the mother or the fetus is at risk. However, what I didn't know is that they teach that even these things are not good enough reasons alone. On the LDS Church's official statement, it says, even these exceptions do not automatically justify It is a most serious matter. It should be considered only after the persons responsible have received confirmation through prayer. Members may counsel with their bishops as part of this process. Remember, ladies, before you get that emergency surgery to save your life, say a prayer to God first to make sure that He wants you to be alive. Very cool. Thank you. As far as IVF, the church discourages it, but it says that it is ultimately a personal matter. How kind of them. Thank you so much for letting me decide that. Appreciate it. Surrogacy, however, is very discouraged, and children born to a surrogate mother are not seen as, quote, born into the covenant. And the parents need to write a letter to the first presidency of the church for approval for their own child to be sealed to them. So even if it is a woman's egg and the man's sperm, and it is 100% genetically those parents' child because it came out of a different woman's vagina, that doesn't count. Makes so much sense. Thank you for clarifying that. The church is also opposed to euthanasia, which is defined as immediately ending someone's life who is suffering, as opposed to just not giving them treatment and letting them die from natural causes. And although euthanasia is the only non-women specific thing in his little list, he gets more into his archaic thoughts about women later. So Football Man's controversial takes, although completely out of place, are so Mormon that when I first saw clips of this, without knowing the context of who he was or who he was talking to, I was fully expecting him to be Mormon. He even has the persecution complex to match.
Our Catholic faith has always been countercultural. Our Lord, along with countless followers, were all put to death for their adherence to her teachings. The world around us says that we should keep our beliefs to ourselves whenever they go against the tyranny of diversity, equity, and inclusion. We fear speaking truth because now, unfortunately, truth is in the minority.
Did he just say he thinks he's a minority? He just said that. Now, where have I heard someone demonizing the word diversity before?
Jesus did not pray that his followers would be diverse. He prayed that they would be one. Modern revelation does not say, be diverse, and if ye are not diverse, ye are not mine. It says, be one. And if ye are not one, ye are not mine.
Before anyone jumps down my throat and tell me that I am taking his words out of context, no, I am not. First of all, this clip was promptly removed from social media, from both the church's page and Dallin Oaks' page after all of the backlash. That's why all of the GIFs were on the video I just showed, because they deleted it. I wonder why. Maybe because it sounds awful no matter what context you put it in. Secondly, some commenters said that he was talking about how we should not have diversity of beliefs, and he wasn't referring to race or sexual orientation, but referring to non-diverse beliefs isn't any better. Being told you need to stop having individual thoughts that differ from your leaders is how you know you're in a cult. I hope that helps. And yes, when Sportsman says diversity, equity, and inclusion, he is referring to the latest alt-right talking point, which is to ban DEI efforts in government and schools, which is something Utah Governor Caillou has successfully done this year. Governor Cox is an active Mormon, and when he is taught things like this by Fox News and his twin flame, Dallin Oaks, it results in this. Cox called requiring employees to sign statements in support of workplace and campus diversity, equity, and inclusion, or DEI, quote, awful, bordering on evil. It's crazy how people are just openly saying that they're biased now. How dare you make me sign a paper that says I can't be racist? God said I can be racist. It's in the Constitution. Although a lot of what Harry Buttcrack said is opinion-based, the following is not. It's just a straight-up lie.
Congress just passed a bill where stating something as basic as the biblical teaching of who killed Jesus could land you in jail.
Hey, come here. No, they didn't. Hey, buddy, guess what? Nope, didn't happen. I didn't know that making things up was a Catholic thing, too. Maybe misinformation is truly the glue that holds Christian religions together. Here comes fact-checking by Mackenzie, brought to you by a Catholic website. On May 1st, amid unrest on some college campuses across the country amid protests of the war in Gaza, the House passed the Anti-Semitism Awareness Act with broad bipartisan support in a 320-91 vote. As of May 16th, 9th, the Senate has not yet taken up the bill, and its future in the upper chamber is uncertain. So first thing, Harrison Buttwipe, the bill has not passed yet. It took me 20 seconds to figure that out. I don't know how long it took you to write and revise your speech, but it's crazy that you didn't look into that at all. The Catholic Review fact-checking continues. The bill targets federal funding for colleges and universities that fail to restrict anti-Semitic behavior. Contrary to Butker's claim, the bill does not impose jail sentences on anyone, including for such behavior. So why does Harry Bunghole think that this anti-discrimination bill that has not passed yet and would not, quote, land anyone in jail has anything to do with him? Among the contemporary examples of anti-Semitism the IHRA cites is accusing Jews as a people of being responsible for real or imagined wrongdoing committed by a single Jewish person or group, or even for acts committed by non-Jews. While there is some debate over the legislation, some groups have raised free speech concerns, while others have argued it could unfairly restrict criticism of the Israeli government. The bill does not restrict the Bible or its contents. The definition of anti-Semitism the bill seeks to codify includes the phrase, quote, using the symbols and images associated with classic anti-Semitism. Example, claims of Jews killing Jesus or blood libel to characterize Israel or Israelis as anti-Semitic. So when Hairball Bitchface says, the biblical teaching of who killed Jesus, he means he believes that the Jews alone are responsible for Jesus' death. And he's mad that the government is trying to tell him that that falls under anti-Semitism. And his religious beliefs tell him that it's okay to be anti-Semitic because they're the villains in his favorite bedtime story. This article says, Catholic magisterial teaching also rejects the assertion that the Jews collectively killed Christ. The claim that Jews were responsible for the crucifixion of Christ rather than Christ freely giving his life to atone for the sins of each individual person prompted centuries of violence against Jews at the hands of Christians, particularly in Europe. Bro, your own church is telling you to pipe the fuck down. That's something I don't understand in Christianity is Christ was definitely supposed to be crucified, and Jesus literally asked God to forgive the people who did that to him. So how you going to be mad that Christ was allowed to die for your sins, but if he didn't, you would be burning in heck for forever? You can't have it both ways. The facts are that this bill does not exist yet, and it has nothing to do with him being a Christian, but it is in a response to pro-Palestine protests that have gone on at college campuses, which I have a lot of thoughts about that I don't have time to get into in this video. I do not think being pro-Palestine means you are anti-Semitic. That is silly. But this bill would expound upon the definition of anti-Semitism, and nothing bad is going to happen to him, even if he keeps saying this stupid shit that he is saying. It's just crazy how protected his speech is versus how targeted he thinks he is. Like, he really expected cops to show up at the end of his speech and arrest him in front of the whole crowd. And for some reason, still unknown to this day, in his speech that will later be filled with misogyny, he decides to quote Taylor Swift as if she would be caught dead within a mile radius of you if she did not have to professionally for her boyfriend's job.
And Taylor was there, and I got to meet her, and she was just so humble and so gracious. I don't think she grew up a football fan, so everything for her is so cool, and especially as a kicker, she thinks that's amazing that I can kick the ball so far through the uprights. She thinks that's amazing that I can kick the ball so far through the uprights. So
shredding waves is much more dangerous than people realize.
You're very brave, Ken.
Thank you, Barbie.
Yeah.
He says, tragically, so many priests revolve much of their happiness from the adulation they receive from their parishioners, and in searching for this, they let their guard down and become overly familiar. This undue familiarity will prove to be problematic every time, because as my teammate's girlfriend says, familiarity breeds contempt. Parentheses, laughter. He's talking about Taylor Swift. I think he purposefully didn't name her because he already knows how stupid he sounds. Now, I couldn't tell you what the fuck he's talking about when he says priests are getting too friendly with their congregation and that that's a bad thing, but I can tell you that Familiarity Breeds Contempt is from Taylor Swift's song called Bejeweled, in which she celebrates being a single woman who doesn't need a man on her arm to enjoy her life. I doubt he's listened to the song and was just bringing her up for clout, although she would absolutely throw up if she had to listen to this. And the part of his speech that is going the most viral is when he directly addresses the women grads in the audience.
For the ladies present today, congratulations on an amazing accomplishment. You should be proud of all that you have achieved to this point in your young lives. I want to speak directly to you briefly because I think it is you, the women, who have had the most diabolical lies told to you. How many of you are sitting here now, about to cross this stage, and are thinking about all the promotions and titles you are going to get in your career? Some of you may go on to lead successful careers in the world, but I would venture to guess that the majority of you are most excited about your marriage and the children you will bring into this world. I can tell you that my beautiful wife, Isabel, would be the first to say that her life truly started when she began living her vocation as a wife and as a mother. I'm on this stage today and able to be the man I am because I have a wife who leans into her vocation. I'm beyond blessed with the many talents God has given me, but it cannot be overstated that all of my success is made possible because a girl I met in band class back in middle school would convert to the faith, become my wife, and embrace one of the most important titles of all, homemaker.
Remember, he is speaking at a Catholic school where many women are in agreement of what he is saying. And then he goes on to talk about how his wife has no regrets becoming a stay-at-home mom instead of pursuing a career. And I say, prove it. Get her up there. I want to hear her say it. I'm just trying to see something. He also says, everything I am saying to you is not from a place of wisdom, but rather a place of experience. I am hopeful that these words will be seen as those from a man, not much older than you, who feels it is imperative that this class, this generation, and this time in our society must stop pretending that the things we see around us are normal. Oh, trust me, we are not pretending that anything you are saying is normal. Your experience is not a universal experience. It is an extreme privilege for any family to live on one income alone, and it is becoming increasingly more difficult. Not because people are godless, but because they are penniless. The economy is in the shitter. People literally cannot afford to have kids. It's not a viable goal for everyone for one parent to stay home full time. You can do it because you're rich. It has nothing to do with how much you love Jesus, you dummy. Obviously, everything he just said is so in line with what the Mormon church teaches. It is in their family proclamation. It's said at every conference. And we recently had Relief Society President Camille Johnson give a talk at BYU in which she emphasized her decision to not delay having children while simultaneously pursuing a career. Listen carefully. She said, I had my first son the year after I passed the bar. I had babies, and my husband and I loved and nurtured them while we were both working. It was busy, sometimes hectic. We were stretched and sometimes tired. I supported him and he supported me. Family was and still is our top priority. My husband and I sought inspiration in these choices and in the timing. It was what we felt impressed to do. We were trying to let God prevail. And people were quick to point out her hypocrisy because by working as a lawyer, she was directly going against her own prophet's teachings of the time. She would have been 24 years old in 1987 when Ezra Taft Benson gave a talk at General Conference called To the Mothers in Zion, where he explicitly told women that they needed to stay at home with their children and that their husbands needed to be the breadwinners. The church does teach the concept of personal revelation, but only if it's in line with church doctrine. Because what's the point of having a prophet if he's just some guy giving you his opinions and not someone who speaks to God? They teach that the prophet will never steer you wrong, and that's why you're supposed to follow him and not what you want to do. But Camille here is like, I didn't listen to the prophet, and look how great my life turned out. And the church is like, look what a great example she is. What? Also, she is full of shit. In her talk, she said, from a financial and professional perspective, it would have made sense to put off having children until I was more established in my career. In letting God prevail, we sometimes do things that others can't make sense of. Literally, she did wait to have kids. She said she had her first child after passing the bar exam. That is the definition of waiting to have children, and is what everybody should be doing, waiting for the right time, and not just having them the second you get married and turn 18 years old. But it contradicts what she says 3 seconds later when she tells people to not put off having children. But you did. You did do that. Also, she had a nanny to help with her 3 children. Because of course she did. If you have both parents working, it is impossible to have kids without some help of some kind. Whether it's family or babysitters or nannies or house cleaners, a woman cannot do all of that by herself. It is physically impossible. She is not superhuman. She is incredibly wealthy and privileged. The choices that she made for herself are not what her prophets and apostles were telling her to do, and now she's being rewarded for it. And that is incredibly insulting to a lot of women who did listen to the prophet at the time. One woman in the comments said, "As a woman about your age, I would love to hear you speak more about how to listen to your own personal revelation instead of President Benson, who explicitly told women our age to stay home. I stayed home. I sure wish now I had developed that career." And there are so many other heartbreaking stories in the comments of women talking about how they listened to the prophet and they stayed home and they regret it. And she's not going to respond to that because what the fuck does she say? Yep, do whatever you want to do. Fuck the prophet. But that is what she did, and now she is in the highest position that you can get as a woman in the Mormon church. It is hypocrisy of the highest degree, and it is infuriating. So Harry Bubkiss is not saying anything I haven't heard 1,000 times before in my life growing up LDS. He just put his own Catholic flair on it. And this is not going to cancel him, I am sorry to tell you. He'll probably make the podcast route or get a raise. Because like I said, his coach is Mormon. He don't care. I predict after the backlash dies down that nothing will happen to him. But Harry wants to have a victim complex and he wants to be seen as a martyr. It fuels the fire of like, see, you can't say anything anymore. Yeah, you can. You got a standing ovation, dude. A lot of people agree with you and a lot of people disagreed as well, and they're allowed to. Because you may have freedom of speech, but you do not have freedom of consequences. But like I said, I don't really think there will be any for him. I guess the point I wanted to make with this video is to show how toxic religion is, specifically the Christian religion, as that is the one that I am familiar with. It truly just is dress up for dudes. They get to pretend to be superheroes with magic powers, and they get mad when we don't believe them. If you had put Harrison in a suit and tie and CGI'd him behind a Mormon pulpit, members would have watched that video and said that they felt the spirit, and that's how they knew what he said was true. Moral of the story is, you go kick that ball. You go kick it so far, right over them mountains. We don't want to hear any of the words coming out of your mouth hole. Thank you for watching, and again, thank you so much to the sponsor of this video. It is because you guys watch and comment and like that I even got a sponsor at all. You guys are the best. I love you so much. You couldn't really see them in this video, but say goodbye to Trixie and Rexy, and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.